The 49ers offseason training program starts in a week. Will Trent Williams be there? What about Brock Purdy? What's up? Good afternoon. Welcome to Cohn and Krueger. That's Larry Krueger. I'm Grant Cohn. OTA start next week. Practices don't start, but the players report. It's voluntary, but you'd like Brock Purdy to be there. You'd like Trent Williams to be there. Trent's a bit of a mystery, but Brock is cut and dry. He wants an extension. He hasn't gotten it yet. After the season, he said he'd like to get it as soon as possible so that he can be there with his teammates this offseason, which is kind of like a really nice, polite threat. Do you think this deal gets done soon?
Soon's relative. No, it's funny. I do think that, I guess we're going to find this. I guess there's different kinds of holdouts, right? One holdout would be like, I'm not lifting a finger until I get paid. And then there's the, I'm just not going on the field so I don't get hurt until I get paid. Yeah, the hold in. Yeah. This first phase of the OTAs is a classroom phase only. There's no field work. So what do you think, Grant? Do you think Brock is the good soldier and shows up for the meetings because, hey, it's just meetings and there's nobody's going to get hurt? Or do you think it's like, hey man, you want your guy, sign him to the check. Otherwise he's going to hang out at home. What do you think?
I would go. I think it's a great question. I think I would go. I think the Brock I think I know would go because you don't risk anything. All it is an act of good faith. Like, hey, I know we're getting closer. We've made some progress. I'm confident. I want to be here. I'm confident this is going to get done. You want me. I want to be here. It's not done yet, but I'll show up as a leader and go to meetings and lift and run and stuff. But when it's time to actually do 11 on 11, like that's it. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. I don't know if I would do that one.
Here's the question. And this is taking us down a road that I don't even know if you want to go down, but this is my specialty.
I like going down weird roads.
Yeah, this is my specialty. So let's go. To me, the whole thing with Purdy it's twofold, right? It's one, how's the negotiation going? What's he asking for? What are you offering? How close are you? How are things going? Are you working towards a conclusion, or is this working towards a stalemate, holdout, impasse, blow up the season kind of a thing? And I have no idea. All we really know is that Brock's agent is not a big name agent, so he's probably trying to make a name for himself. And on the Niners front, they've announced to the world that they are going to be ruthless in negotiations, whatever that means. So on one hand, Grant, you got that going on, right? But then over on the other side of the building, so that's Parag and John, I would imagine, maybe a few other people. Then the other side of the building, you got your scouts, and you're having your draft meetings, and you're setting your board, and you're looking at the quarterback, canvas for 2025, and you're saying, all right, is there a quarterback that we really, really like that, I don't know, that we really, really like, that we think could be the guy that we could get, that we would want to invest?
What if they love Jackson Dart? What if they love Shadur Sanders? What if they love Jalen Milroe?
I mean, even go further down. Okay, and I watched. Now, granted, a lot of people don't like this guy, but I watched John Gruden's quarterback school the other night, and he had Riley Leonard on from Notre Dame. And Grant, this kid has got some magic. He's got good size. He's got good athleticism, and he's smart as a tack. Went to Duke and Notre Dame. He turned Duke into something. Then he went to Notre Dame. They played for the national championship on a team that had guys sitting out, didn't have their star running back. He got them all the way to the national championship game before they lost to the much more talented Buckeyes. Riley Leonard in this thing. And if you don't want to watch the whole thing, just fast forward to the very end where John Gruden kind of sums him up. And he's like, man, this guy is all about it. He's like, I thought I was all about football. This guy's all about football. He's a winner. He's athletic. He's got enough of an arm. He showed it at the combine. I'm just saying, if you thought that, man, Purdy ain't the guy, because I've read your articles. You've talked about the Saints trading for Brock Purdy and other teams trading for Brock Purdy. First, to me, you got to cross that bridge, Grant, of do you want him? And then is this contract thing at an impasse? And then if it's at an impasse, and then while that's going on, do you think Kyle McCord's a superstar? Do you think Tyler Shugg or Riley Leonard or one of these guys is potentially a really, really good young quarterback? So I don't know. I mean, it's a very volatile time because you got multiple things going on at one time. I personally, I love Brock Purdy. You know that. You know how much I'm all about Brock Purdy, and I would sign him and I would pay him, and I don't have a problem paying him $50 million. But I want to keep it short term. I want there to be some protections in there. There are some, and you got to surround him with a line and with some weapons and with a defense. So if you cook the whole thing up and you're like, you know what, this isn't going to work out, you could go into the draft and say Mac Jones and Riley Leonard go, and we'll spend that money and those picks, that top 11 pick, in a different way, and not look at different things. Now you've got more money to spend on the rest of your roster. I'm a Brock Purdy guy. I would sign Brock Purdy, but I don't know how these negotiations are going, and I love Riley Leonard.
I think what's interesting, I think the Niners probably feel the way you do. Like, they probably don't have a problem giving him $50-something million a year, as long as it's not super long term and there's outs and it's kind of a team friendly deal. Like, they did that with Colin Kaepernick 10 years ago. Yep. They gave him a deal that made him one of the highest paid players in the league. But when the details came out, it was clear that it was very team friendly and the Niners could get out of it whenever they wanted, and they did. I think that's what's going to come down to with Brock. I'm sure they can give him a contract that makes him, sound like the second highest paid player in the league, or whatever his agent or Brock's ego needs, whatever they need on the headline. But in terms of like actual guarantees, I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners and Brock and his agent are way off. And that's why I'm skeptical that this deal is going to get done in April or May. The Niners take forever. They usually cave in September, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're close on the annual average value right now, high 40s, maybe, or low 50s, probably low. I'm guessing they're close, but the guarantees, that is to me going to be the real tough bridge to cross. I don't know that they ever will. Maybe they will. It's the Niners. They generally cave.
Yeah, but they're ruthless. They're going to be ruthless
for a few months.
Yeah. Here's the other one though that I get a lot. Let me see if I can find it in my Twitter. I get this like at least once every 2 or 3 days. I don't know if you get these same ones. Which is like, hey, Krug, guarantee you Aaron Rodgers is going to be their quarterback week 1. I've gotten this a lot. Here it is. Matt Conniff at Sports Larry K. Aaron Rodgers will be the QB1 of the 49ers coming opening day. Book it. And I get this at least every 3 or 4 days. And I would just be like, no, but I just keep getting it. And I'm wondering, are you getting
let me tell you what I've heard. And this isn't super confirmed, but this is what I've heard through the grapevine. It's not necessarily that the Niners want Rodgers. It's that Rodgers wants the Niners. That's what I've heard. And he's going to wait around. He's going to drag his feet, and people are going to wonder which team he wants to sign. He wants to sign with the Niners. And they don't have an opening for a quarterback right now. But if things get weird with Brock Purdy, he's waiting around. That's what I've understood. He's from here. He went to Cal. He thinks he should have started his career here. He thinks it would be kind of cool to end his career here. That's what I've heard. He could change his mind 18 times.
Yeah, he wore the Montana T-shirt under his Cal, pads his entire time at Cal. So he's a big-time Niner guy. But I always felt like maybe he felt scorned by the Niners and had no warmth at all for them. But maybe it's not about that. Maybe it's just about quality of life and where you want to live. And maybe he would rather live here, all things being said, if not, than Pittsburgh. And who wouldn't? So maybe that's what's going on here. But that's interesting. I mean, it is interesting. And it makes you wonder, will the 49ers step up if there is any acrimony or any, hey, you guys see it this way, Kyle Strongen, and we see it that way. Wouldn't it be almost in the Niners' interest to kind of pop that pimple going into the draft so at least they knew, hey, let's, we want this done. We want this done. Well, we want this done. Brock wants to be out there. Everybody can want it to be done, but it's, you speak through the quality of the competency of your offers, right? So
Is it possible that Rodgers or his agent could go to the Niners privately and say, look, Rodgers wants to play for you. We understand that your first choice is the 25-year-old Brock Purdy, not the 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, but you should know that Rodgers is your Rodgers' first choice. And, maybe you don't want to offer Brock Purdy $60 million a year. Maybe you should know that Rodgers would play for $10 million less a year than Brock would. So if things start getting weird and you can't really come to an agreement, keep us in mind. Here's my card.
Well, we don't know how they feel about all these quarterbacks. There are Niner fans that love Brock Purdy. There are Niner fans that loved Brock Purdy and feel like he's lost arm strength and they don't love him as much anymore. Where do the Niners sit? Publicly, they're very much Ed. I love him. Kyle, John. It's all this stated love of Brock. Is that how they really feel? And are they going to speak with their pocketbook? And if not, is this deal a deal that's not going to get done? I will say this though. The team's in a pretty nice spot. Considering Brock Purdy is the only quarterback that they've had recently that's been any good, you now have a situation where you have Aaron Rodgers available, maybe sounding like what you're making sound like he wants to play for them. You've got Mac Jones, who I think is a viable NFL starting quarterback, who's already on your roster now as your backup. You have Tanner Mordecai already, and you got a draft that, it's kind of a speculative quarterback class for sure. But I think Riley Leonard showed this year he's got magic, and I would be absolutely very intrigued. Like, I would not be, I love, me, Grant, I love Brock Purdy. I'm a believer in Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy's been slighted to no end by too many people, and I would pay him. But if this thing gets out of hand, and who knows? I don't know what Brock Purdy's agent's asking for. For all I know, Brock Purdy said, agent said, you know what, $65 million, not a penny less, and don't even bother calling. And maybe the Niners don't want to pay him anywhere close to that. Maybe they're at an impasse. We just don't know it. We don't know. So if it's at that kind of a situation, I'll say this, from the Niner perspective, I would not be afraid to say, Brock, love you, but we're going with Rodgers. We're going with Mac. We're going to draft Riley Leonard, and we're going to turn the page. Sorry. Goodbye. And that, I know that's incredibly cold, but of course you wouldn't just give him away. You trade him, and you'd probably trade him for some pretty good assets. So we'll see. It's a volatile deal. I've heard from a buddy of mine who scouts in the league. He said, I always talked to him about 2-3 weeks before the draft. And I said, just give me some things that nobody's got that you think are real around the league in relation to the draft. And he said, Krug, Jalen Milroe, Jackson Dart, and Shedeur Sanders are all going to be drafted in the first round. So,
well, Milroe and Dart got invited to the draft. Shedeur declined his invitation.
Yeah. But Milroe they didn't invite Milroe to the draft so they could have Aaron Rodgers reincarnate. Somebody told them, hey, you know what? This guy's coming off the board. And you got to remember about Jalen Milroe. Yes, he looked horrible at the Senior Bowl, but he still is 220 pounds. He's got some good tape out there from Alabama, and he runs in the 4.3s, and he's a pretty powerful runner. So somebody could look at him and say, hey, I can coach him up.
Yeah, I would think so. Especially you see the success that Jalen Hurts just had. I want to talk about Trent Williams for a minute.
Okay.
The Niners downplay injuries a lot. Maybe it's because it's none of our business. It's the players' business. But with Christian McCaffrey, they didn't really tell us what was going on. It was always like, he's fine. If there was a regular season game tomorrow, he could play in it. He didn't play until week 10. With Trent Williams, what we know is that he injured his ankle again last year. He's injured his ankle 5 years in a row. This time, played through it for 2 games. He played through it against Seattle. He came back the next week. He was a game time decision against Green Bay. They shut him down like 90 minutes before game time, and then he never played again, never practiced again. That was that. Really wasn't even around the facility anymore much after that. 3 days after the season ended, John Lynch at a press conference was asked about Trent, and he said, oh, yeah, that injury was taking a while, but it's gotten a lot better, and he's going to be back this year. 37 years old, recurring ankle injuries. Is this going to be what finally does him in? Is this something that should concern the 49ers? Like, even if he says he's coming back and playing this year, should they be concerned that an ankle injury could force him out again?
Oh, I think they should be. I think you and I both know, though, Grant, that last year's missed games for Trent is a little misleading. He missed a career high 7 games. What's not misleading is that he turns 37. I think in season or in July. So he's going to be. This is his age 37 season. But that 7 missed games probably was more like 4 or 5 missed games. He probably could have rolled it back at the end if they had been a better team. But he's not going to play in meaningless games.
Right, because we've seen him play on that injured ankle in playoff games.
We both know Trent well enough. He would have gutted it out if they had been, absolutely.
It wouldn't have been pretty, but he would have played.
He would have played. He would have suited up and played and gave it a go. But he still missed 7 games, and it's a lot of games. It's a career high for him, and he is 37. And they don't, his backup, who's really kind of an underrated key cog, just got paid by Kansas City. Jalen Moore's gone, so they really do need this swing tackle. I mean, this guy who can play either spot. Just looking at all the draft prospects, the guy that I saw that seems like he probably makes the most sense as far as the best guy who's also got experience at left and right tackle and could be considered a swing tackle is Ozzie Trapillo from Boston College, who's really athletic and he's huge. And he's probably probably a 3rd or 4th round draft choice. So they could probably get a guy like Ozzie Trapillo. He's listed, I think probably late third.
The thing that's weird about Trent Williams' ankle injury is I don't remember when it happened. He apparently hurt it against the Buccaneers, but I don't remember when. So I'm trying to go back. Like, we know he injured his ankle in 2023 against Cleveland. Then he missed the next 2 weeks. They lost all 3 of those games. He comes back, finishes the season. Was he playing through an injury? I mean, like, probably. Football players always are playing through a degree of pain. We know in the Super Bowl, he really didn't play well. It was the biggest game of his life. And there's really no explanation as to why Trent Williams, he had 2 penalties, but there were a bunch of clips of him getting like decleated by Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed and DBs setting edges and running games. It was like, what? This isn't Trent Williams. I wonder if it was bothering him then. Then he sits out all of last season, comes back, plays 10 games, and was good, but he wasn't the Trent Williams of 2023. I think he was the 6th highest rated offensive tackle, whereas he'd been like number 1 4 years in a row. I just wonder if this has been something that, one of the greatest left tackles of all time has been silently dealing with for a while. And if it'll ever go away. I mean, I'm his age. When you get hurt, things don't get better. They linger forever. It sucks, but I'm not a really good athlete.
If you're starting at left tackle for the Niners later this year, Niners need to upgrade. They need to upgrade because they're not getting a lot.
You've seen me in person. I'm a pretty big, imposing person.
You're okay in pass protection. It's just you're nothing as a run blocker.
I just don't have much. Drive.
You're not getting enough pop in the run game.
No,
with Cohn there at left tackle. No, I mean, it's funny. I had one conversation with Trent last year, I think, about his ankle, and we just kind of talked about how when you've been in the league as long as he's been in the league, it's like he's wrenched that thing so many times that it's like there's like all kinds of recurrence, like he's, when he pulls it another time, it sometimes inflames even worse, depending on where and exactly the severity. So he's got a lot of, and I think it's one of those things, your body doesn't bounce back as fast. I think the recurrence of any injury is tough on your body. Some are worse than more others. Like shoulders are really bad. If you get a shoulder, it just keeps going. That's really bad.
Or Patrick Willis's case. This reminds me of Patrick Willis.
Yeah, feet.
Because Patrick Willis was as gifted as Trent Williams. 2 of the best athletes in the history of the league. And Patrick Willis was like, 1, this is a debilitating injury I have. But 2, like, I don't really want to just be one of the guys. I've always been the best. I don't want to gut it out. I'm rich and I'm in pain and I'm done. And I wonder if Trent Williams, when he retires, whenever that is going to be for kind of the same reasons. Like, I could keep playing until I'm 41, but I don't want to. I have freaking high standards, and I don't want to watch the tape of me and watch Jordan Mailata be better than me, or 5 other guys be better than me. Like, all due respect, pardon my French, fuck that. I'm Trent Williams. I don't want to watch that, and I'm set for life.
Well, and here's the challenge for the Niners. I mean, only Trent, Purdy, and Brendel are the only 3 offensive linemen they have that are signed beyond this year. So that also kind of makes it a challenge. It's like,
Say that again.
okay,
Say that again.
Brendel, Purdy, and Trent, I read this week, are the only 3 Niner offensive linemen signed beyond 2025.
Wow. Damn.
So they've got a
Brendel's 39. Sorry.
He's not 39, but they've got a fluid situation. And they say they think they've got a lot of good players. I mean, Colton McKivitz. I mean, I was looking at some of these numbers. Warren Sharp had a great article on the Niners leading into the draft. That's on his Twitter from a few weeks ago. And in that article, it mentioned that Colton McKivitz allowed a 5.6% pressure rate, which was 49th among NFL offensive tackles. And yet the Niners are on record as saying, he's
like
good.
him.
He's good.
Yeah.
And Brendel's good. And everybody's good. Now, that could just be what you say in March leading into the draft for strategic reasons. But if they don't address the draft, we'll know it wasn't a smokescreen. It was what they actually believe.
Yeah. Well, if the Niners don't address the offensive tackle position and Trent Williams goes down again with an ankle injury, I mean, they can't throw up their hands and say, oh, who could have seen this coming? Silence says Trent's starting to lose more reps than I remember. Okay. What about Aiyuk? Is a trade still possible for Brandon Aiyuk, even though they just gave him about $23 million with an option bonus a couple weeks ago?
I would say no, right? My first thought is absolutely not, right? You just paid the money. But then when you think about it, wait a second, does that money that was paid by the Niners make Aiyuk more attractive or less attractive to prospective teams? It might make it less attractive to the Niners to move off of him because they just cut a big check. Yeah. But if they really do want to move him, I would imagine paying that bonus, not having the other team inherit it, probably that's probably something the other teams probably like. Fox Sports mentioned this. It was a guy named Ralph Vacchiano. I think he was just writing an article and he wanted to say, hey, there could be a lot of vets traded, and he threw Aiyuk out there. He admitted in the article it's not likely, but it will be interesting to see if somebody came knocking with the Niners. What would the Niners actually take? Would they pull the trigger? I don't think so, but how severe are their financial issues?
Yeah, I feel like this is a sunk cost fallacy. Classic example. Just because you paid him $23 million 2 weeks ago doesn't mean you should keep him around and pay him more in the future. Like if the relationship is broken beyond repair, if you want to move on, if he's not part of the future, if the plan is to trade him next year, then you should be open to trade him now. Who cares that you just wrote him a check? If you get a good offer now, then trade him now. What are you waiting for? I mean, I'm with you on this. It seems like he's probably not going to be on the team next year. So he's on the clock right now.
Well, and the other thing is you have to build this team as if he's not going to play. I think if you really realistically want to be a good team, you got to go find another receiver, because you're not winning the Super Bowl or contending for the Super Bowl with the receivers you have. You're going to have to. Now, you don't necessarily want to invest a high pick in a receiver. I get that. I think the most interesting part of this draft, Grant, is going to be when the Niners pick comes up at the top of round 2, at 43, because from what I can tell, when you get to that 43 mark, there's a lot of really intriguing offensive players that really could help the 49ers. Travion Henderson and maybe Luther Burden, and who knows, maybe Harold Fannin, and skill position guys that Shanahan may like. And he may want one of those guys with Debo gone, Aiyuk broken, and CMC chronic, tendonitis, Achilles tendonitis or whatever. So that to me is going to be the most. Do they go corner? Do they go O-line? Do they go D-end? There's been talk about Oladejo from UCLA in round 2. Is that too early for him? So I think that second round pick is going to be super intriguing, because they're in a great spot right there. Almost all the mocks I've seen have first guys that are mocked as first round picks falling into their lap right there in the 40s, and it'll be interesting to see if they go for need or go play at best player available there.
You could argue that the Niners should wait before trading Aiyuk, that you've paid him already, and if you wait and he comes back and plays 6 games, whatever, and looks good for some of them, then you could trade him for a lot, or you might want to keep him. But I feel like that's dangerous too, because if you do that and he comes back and he's clearly not the player he was before he got injured, then good luck trading him at that point. Like, you trade him now, there's some mystery. Like when the Niners traded Trey Lance and no one really knew what he was, and they got a 4th round pick when the Bears got a 6th round pick for Justin Fields just because everyone had seen him struggle for so long. Maybe you trade him now.
Yeah. I mean, if you believe the player's taken off, then you don't trade him. His value's low. But there's always people like, well, you wouldn't trade him now. His value's low. Well, for all you know, it's going back up, but it may go lower. So if the value is going to go even further down, then maybe moving him is the right move. So we'll see. I mean, it's interesting because even if they move him, they still need a receiver. So it's they're in a weird pickle. And it's like, then the other question is, people are like, well, he looked good dancing at his wedding, and he's probably going to be ready in the first half of the year. He got hurt in week 7, and he tore MCL, ACL, and the meniscus. I don't know, man. I would say November. I mean, if you're asking me, I would say it seems like November. And then the question I would have is, do you believe in Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall to be able to lead your wide receiver core? And I don't necessarily think that those guys can do it.
And the meniscus is the reason I would trade him for whatever I could get, because ACL and MCL, I feel like in 2025, with the medical technology that exists, players do make darn near full recoveries from that injury. But the meniscus, from what I understand, it's going to lead to bone-on-bone contact in his knee sooner than later, and it's kind of irreversible. So it sounds like it could shorten his career. I would trade him now.
My thing is like, hey, look, if you get to the top of round 2 and you're staring at Luther Burden, I'm taking him. And then,
well, what about if Ted McMillan's available at 11? That's the big question.
I'm not taking him there.
How come?
I like other players more at 11, but I've heard a lot that Burden's going to fall to the top of round 2. And if he was there, him and Trey Harris at the top of round 2, to me, are the most intriguing receivers that are there. If those guys are there, I'd be tempted to take one of them and then, maybe dial around to see, is there somebody willing to give you anything for Aiyuk? Because if you really are about getting out of the money, once you find the replacement receiver, you could move on at that point and get whatever you could get. I mean, I'd be willing to take a little bit of a less deal to save that money if I'm the Niners, knowing that amount of money could be what, $90 million or $85 million. It's a sizable amount of money.
Absolutely. All right. You know what time it is? It's time for Prize Picks. And the Giants are playing right now. So let's make some live picks.
Ooh, okay. Let's go. 6-3 Giants, bottom second in Philly. Landon Roop just walked a batter. You got first man on first, 1 out in the second, bottom 2, 6-3. A lot of runs in this game. My goodness, the ball's jumping in Philly. 9 runs, and we're only in the bottom of the second. Wow.
Jung-Hoo Lee, 1.5 total bases. Will he get more than that the rest of the game?
Yes.
Boom. Heliot Ramos, will he hit a home run today?
No, I would say he's cold right now.
What about 3.5 hits, runs, and RBIs?
I would say no. Is there a Wilmer Flores?
Let's see, Wilmer. I think there is a Wilmer Flores.
He's been really hot. Let me see if he's in there.
Yeah, there he is. Hold on. Let me write his name in. Wilmer.
Let me double check to make sure he's in the lineup.
Yeah.
I hate to bet
2.5 total bases, 3.5 hits, runs, RBIs. They're only letting us do more because the game's going on.
Yeah, he's off to an incredible hot start. He's already driven in a run tonight. He's 1 for 1. His batting average is 268, but he's hitting the ball left and right. What's the over-unders? They have
2.5 total bases, currently at 1, and 3.5 hits, runs, and RBIs, currently at 3.
I'd go the first one.
Okay. All right. Let's go back.
You get to double. There you go. You're home.
Matt Chapman.
He's in there.
Total
He's cold.
bases.
He's only hitting
currently at
170.
0. He's cold.
He's cold. He's really cold.
Yeah. Hold up. What about Tyler Fitzgerald? 5.5 total bases, currently at 4. He could get there.
He's
got 1.5 to go.
You know, he went. Did he go deep in this game? Yeah, he went deep. He's already hit. He hit a 3-run bomb.
Yeah, about that?
Fitzgerald had the big 3-run bomb in the top of the first. Yeah, let's go with that. He might be hot when a guy gets a home run early. A lot of times they loosen up. The rest of the game's like gravy.
All right, we got to get one from
Philly?
a non-Giants team. So let's do random basketball players.
Oh, okay.
How about Ja Morant against the Warriors, 29.5? More?
He loves going against the Warriors. I'm going to say more.
Okay.
I say he goes for 30.
All right, let's stick with that. That's the lineup. Jung-Hoo Lee, Wilmer Flores, Tyler Fitzgerald, Ja Morant. Because that's a 4-man team that anyone would want. Anyway.
Good luck.
Thank you,
Good
Prize
luck
Picks.
to everybody out there.
Good luck. Do you have any potential draft surprises for the 49ers?
You know, it's interesting. The more I watch all the mocks and look at all the coverage, it seems to me that there are a couple people that would still love the Niners to go with a tackle like a Campbell or a Membu. There's people that are definitely pushing for the defensive tackles, Nolan, Harmon, and Grant. And you get the feeling that there's people who are, an assortment. There's like a very polarizing group of defensive ends. Jalen Walker doesn't look like a defensive end, but man, a lot of people really love him. Mikael Williams, looks the part, and a lot of people love him, but I'm not one of them. Then there's Shamar Stewart, and he's polarizing Grant because he really has an amazing motor, and he's probably got the best physical profile, but he's only never had more than 1 or 1.5 sacks in a season. He's only got 4.5 career sacks, but he did lead A&M with, in pressures this year, and he's a beast. So, it's a matter of beauty in the eye of the beholder. Now, I don't worry about Shamar Stewart and his lack of sack production. Why? Because one, I watched all those games, and he was on a line that had Scorton and other guys on there, Shamar Turner, and they're just other guys got sacks. Also, A&M had a great line. Everybody kind of knew it. So there was a lot of three-step drops and the ball coming out. And this guy still led them in pressures. And I swear, there's this player's if there's a theme of Shamar Stewart, it's that I don't know that I've seen a defensive lineman in college football the last 5 or 6 years that consistently plays with his hair on fire like this guy. Now, he doesn't get the sack production. Why? The ball comes out. There's other guys. He's really raw with his hand placement and usage. He needs to be coached up by a top-tier coach. But I would be so eager. If you ask me if there's one question I would love to know right now, I'd love to know, how does Chris Kasarik and Robert Saleh feel about Shamar Stewart's weaknesses, and what do they feel they can coach him up? If so, wow, he's really hard to pass. But the other thing that stands out to me is, as we get closer to this thing, I said this as the theme. I've said this to you. I've said this to other people. Beyond offense, defense, the need, the not need, value, all that. Beyond all that is the Niners are really badly in need of a great player. They got to get a great player. And to me, the one guy who's really great, who was great in college, and he's going to be on the board when they pick, is Malachi Starks. He was a 5-star high school recruit. He was the number 1 recruit in the country. Could have gone anywhere. He went to Georgia. He's been one of the best players on the Georgia Bulldogs killer defense for a while. He's not the biggest hitter you're ever going to find, and his workout numbers were just good, not great. But if you watch the film, this guy in the SEC was the best player on the field most Saturdays. I mean, this guy's a great player. This guy's a perfect free safety to put next to Malik Mustafa. And those guys, that could be your safety combination. That could be, you got Gus Bradley here. Maybe Gus wants to rekindle the Legion of Boom. And Malachi Starks and Malik Mustafa with Renardo Green would not be a bad way to go.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. Also, I think pointing out Gus Bradley's smart. I think he's going to have a big influence on the defense. And if you look at the cornerbacks that they're interested in, that they've met with, they all look like zone corners, guys who run 4-5-3. I mean, sort of that Richard Sherman type, not necessarily the Jason Verrett type. So maybe that's the new direction of the Niners defense. I also want to point out, I like that you brought up Mykel Williams and Shamar Stewart. I've been thinking a lot about the defensive end position for the Niners and what they're looking for. I think it's so interesting that they kept Yetur Gross-Matos, Yetur. Like, why? His cap number is almost $10 million this year. He's the 6th highest paid player on the team in terms of just cap number this year. To me, they have a plan for him. He's a big D end who moves to D tackle on pass rushing downs. That doesn't mean they won't take Shamar Stewart or Mykel Williams, but they're similar. 6'5", 260, 265. I think they're looking for a smaller edge speed rusher. And if you remember, I mean, it was just last year that Robert Saleh traded for Hassan Reddick. And a few years ago, he traded for D Ford. Hassan Reddick's like 237. You know, he's often had real small speed rushers on his team. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Walker was available and Saleh had his choice, that he'd be all over Jalen Walker. I don't care what position he plays. You call him. Be an edge rusher.
Jalen Walker is spectacular. The Dane Brugler NFL draft guide on Jalen Walker, it goes through it. Just, you can see, I mean, the coaches loved him. He was like a coach on the field. They the Georgia people, he was their leader. He was their alpha. I see a lot of Patrick Willis in Jalen Walker. Why? Because Patrick Willis could have been a defensive end if he wanted to be. He just happened to be a stacked linebacker. And this guy could be a defensive end or a stacked linebacker, and he's just awesome. He's fast. He's productive. Football's important. It's like there's more than just, he's fast and athletic. It's like this guy is, really, really a smart player. I just think that he's, almost a can't miss. But I also think he's such a can't miss that he's not going to be there. I think he'll probably go ahead of the 49ers. The guy that I really want the Niners to stay away from is Mykel Williams. Not that I think he's a lock to be pretty good, but I also think he's kind of a lock to not be great. And at the 11th pick overall, as I said, they need a great player, and that's why people say, well, why, what about Will Johnson? And, I could see the 49ers. Let's just say the Niners, because there's a lot of talk out of Philly that Bryce Huff is going to get dealt by the Eagles, probably for a day 3 pick. Well, he was great with Robert Saleh with the Jets. Well, what if Robert Saleh said to, Howie Roseman and John Lynch, hey, you know what, get me my guy, and the Niners worked it out. Here's a 6th-round pick for Bryce Huff. If you knew you were getting Bryce Huff later in the draft, maybe you wouldn't want that defensive end. Maybe you'd want the tackle, or maybe you wouldn't want the D lineman, period. Maybe you'd want Jedi Barron or Johnson from Michigan, because you're going to get that rusher up front and you're looking to win next year. I mean, I'll say this. I do not feel good about lining up right now with Trey Brown as the 3rd best corner. To me, that's a.
Can I say something though? I don't think that until I see something to change my mind, I don't think the Niners are too concerned about the 2025 season.
Really? Well, there's that too.
I mean, I think they'd like to win. They maybe expect to be pretty good if Christian McCaffrey's healthy because of their schedule. But I think they know that their Super Bowl window is shut for now. And I think they feel if they play their cards right in 2025, it can be open again in 2026. But it's not open right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. I mean, it's. I don't know that I would guarantee it. Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable guaranteeing, because they have a horrible schedule. And they have a quarterback who's pretty cerebral and may play a good year. And you got a quarterback and a head coach that have been to the Super Bowl. You're probably going to the playoffs. So right there, it's like,
they're not tanking, but they're not exactly all in.
No, I believe that.
No.
I believe Kawakami said that it's foolish to think that the Niners could be a contender for the Super Bowl this year because of their roster. I agree with him, but in the present, of course, but I'd also say, let me check back after the draft. Let's see what they get done. Because what if they traded back, got extra picks? What if they flipped 2 of those extra picks for veteran players that they could afford to pay? Now you're
Yeah,
adding
then
a
I would
couple
change the way I
veterans.
feel. I don't
you're adding a
expect
couple
them to go get a
veterans.
couple of veteran players like Bryce Huff, because that would mean they'd be taking 2025 seriously. And my
Well,
hypothesis right now is that they're not tanking, but they're basically like, well, whatever happens, happens. It's okay, because we're really focused on 2026. I mean, they're going to have like $100 million in dead cap this year. How serious can you be?
right. No, I mean, it's a ton of dead cap. They may be looking at this as the one-off. You know what? Which makes the idea that they may move Aiyuk even more viable, right? Because if
Right.
you're really going to do this one-off and dump all your bad money, why not just move
Do it.
him for whatever you can get and take that poison pill on your cap as well in this kind of transition year of cap?
I mean, they could do it at the trade deadline. It'll be interesting to see where the Niners stand at the deadline and if they're sellers or buyers. But before we get there, the draft coming up next week, do you think the Niners finally will prioritize trenches? Or, I mean, Chris Forster said it himself. He said, we want to invest in players who score touchdowns. That's what we do here. Do you think they'll continue to invest in skill position players?
I think the Niners are going to take more skill position players than offensive linemen. I know there's a lot of people walking around. They need 4 offensive linemen. No, they don't.
Well, you said earlier they only have 3 under contract for 2026. That's incredible.
Right. That's true. But they also,
and one of them's Trent.
Right. And one of them's Brendel, who, do you want him under contract?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some pretty fiery debate about his value. So, I mean, they have some bodies. They just don't have anybody that's really set. I mean, the guy that, to me, when I watch the film, I watch a guy who's just so big and powerful, and Tyler Booker, that to me, he's a culture changing player. Now, he's not a natural fit for the outside zone, but let's not pretend he couldn't do it.
Neither was Aaron Banks.
Yeah, neither was Aaron Banks. And also, it's like, I think we're looking at a Quentin Nelson. Now, if you had Quentin Nelson, would you use if you thought there was a Quentin Nelson in this draft?
Well, Larry, hold on.
Would you use the 11th pick on him?
I think Tyler Booker fits. I think he fits. I think the Niners have different profiles for left guard and right guard. The left guards they've had under Kyle are Aaron Banks, 225, 325, and Laken Tomlinson, 323. I think they want a drive blocker on the left side where they can run inside zone and double team combo with Trent Williams. And on the right side, I think they want guys who can reach and run and have the agility. That's the way I look at it. I think they absolutely would take Tyler Booker. I don't know about in round 1, but round 2 for sure.
I mean, I would trade back. To me, he's going. If you said, where's Tyler Booker going to go? He's going to go after the Niners' first pick and before the Niners' second pick. So do what you need to do to go get him. But Grant, I think this is the culture.
Well, ESPN has him ranked 36th overall. That's Scouts Inc. So maybe maybe between him, Gray Zabel, and Jonah Savanaye, they're going to be one really good guard available at round 2. Or they could take a tackle in round 2, play him at guard until Trent Williams retires or gets hurt.
To me, it's like if you said how would I play the draft, I would probably go defensive tackle, Grant or Nolan, either at 11 or in a trade back. And then I would try to get a big time guard, either Donovan Jackson from Ohio State or Tyler Booker from Alabama with that 43 pick. And if I got to move up to do it, I would do it. I don't know if I'd move up for Jackson. I would move up for Booker. I think Booker is ridiculous. I mean, his film was just so unbelievable. I mean, he would be such an upgrade on Banks. I really believe that. And I like Banks, but Banks,
I think 43 is very much in play for guard because they took Banks Booker at like 40 something.
Yeah, I mean, Booker, I know that, Booker didn't have the great 3 cone and he's not a great tester, but he had a better 40 than Pooney. He had a better 40 than Pooney. And to me, go read the scouting reports on Booker and even watch some of the things that have been said. Brian Baldinger, who I love, Baldy, and he was on the path to the draft the other night. He's like, of all the players in this draft, this guy played guard in the NFL and knows quite a bit about it. He said, of all the players in the NFL draft, he's like, this might be the one of the safest picks. This guy is just an absolute lock to be a 10 to 14 year absolute dominator. And to me, when Alabama lost to Vandy, they said that Booker was the guy that kind of got everybody refocused. He's a leader. He's 6'5". He's got 35-inch arms. He's 330 pounds, and he is a destroyer.
You know who he kind of reminds me of?
Who's that?
Young Mikey Potty.
Yes. He's
Mikey Potty.
He's the size of a Coke machine. He's
Yeah.
a big rectangle.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I love that's a great comparison.
And again, I think that player fits in this offense. You don't think of it, but go back and look at Laken Tomlinson's combine numbers. He was not super agile. He's a big dude, strong guy.
I mean, Harbaugh ran a little bit of a different system. He likes some bigger linemen, but I'll say this: I think Booker is a destroyer. And if you get Booker and put him at left guard, between Booker and Purdy, man, you would have the interior guard set for the next 15 years, and that's a great place to start. If you love Brock Purdy as you say you do, Niners, then build that fortress around him. You got Purdy last year. If you come away with Booker this year, you're 2/3 of the way to the wall. My guy Willie Lampkin in day 3 would be a great center backup. Now you're set in the middle. To me, that's the route I would go. I love Tyler Booker.
Booker seems like the kind of guy who falls to the Ravens and they take him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're always just minding their own business and they don't ever have any particular need. And someone really great falls to them and they're like, no one wanted this guy. No one wanted Kyle Hamilton. Why?
Right.
No one wanted Terrell Suggs. Why? Like, we'll take him. No one wanted Haloti. Nada. Great.
Yeah.
We'll take him.
Guard from Iowa. Remember the guard from Iowa fell to them in the 20s.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Like
there's like that one player that the whole league overthinks, and Ravens like looks pretty good to us.
Yeah,
we'll take him.
That guy should have been taken a half round ago. Oh, we'll take him. Yeah.
Remember that 20 years ago with Terrell Suggs? He was just killing it at Arizona State, but he ran like a 4.8, and people are like, maybe he's not good at football. It's like, no, he's very good at football.
Right. I'll say this, and I heard Bucky Brooks saying it on Fox Sports, last year during the football season, talking about on the weekend show. He's like, the Ravens are so good at the draft because they draft great college football players.
Yeah. Oh, consistently.
That's it.
Always. Never a project. It's like some guy that
never
was good on film.
Warrior. They never draft.
But he's just a guard.
Warrior.
He's just a safety.
They never, you never hear them, Eric DeCosta ever say, well, you know what? It was, it was like our board. We really needed this here. No, they play the board as it comes to them. The last mock I saw had them going with Malachi Starks. I mean, that's the kind of bonanza pick that they've been known for.
They never reach. And the Niners really in rounds 1 through 3 have reached more than other teams the last few years. Joseph for real says I'd absolutely trade Trent and Bosa now if they pulled 2 certain firsts, 2 2s with one that can turn into at least 1 first rounder. We need more Polynesian monsters on the O-line. Tribe mentality is vital. Thank you, Joseph Friel. My question is, what do you think of Joseph Savanaye? I mean, he is as big as Tyler Booker, and he really moved very well at the combine. Fast.
I love him. Now he told the scouts and the NFL teams that even though he can play tackle, he really wants to play guard, and he sees himself as a guard. But he's got experience, Grant, at right guard, right tackle, left tackle, and he's a destroyer, man. He is really aggressive in the run game. He's a very, very good offensive lineman. He'd be like one of the guys I'd be considering there in round 2 for sure.
I think ideally the Niners would take him or Booker, whoever's available at 43. But the whole Trent Williams conundrum mystery makes me feel like the Niners might hope for a tackle to fall, maybe Josh Connerly, and put him at guard. But I don't know, like, would he be a powerful drive guard, like drive blocker at left guard, or is he kind of a finesse pass protector?
I mean, he was a 5-star guy from Rainier
Great
Beach,
player.
Seattle, like suburban Seattle, and so a lot of people feel like he is absolutely one of the best prospects long term. Like if the Niners really don't think they're going anywhere this year, then maybe Connerly is the pick, because Connerly, I think, is the best long range replacement left tackle where they'll be picking most likely for Trent. But I'll say this: there's a couple of good values late in this draft as guys who could be swing tackles. Miles Hinton, who went to Stanford and then transferred like Drake Nugent did to Michigan. He's huge, 6'5", 320, good NFL bloodlines. He's smart. He's got experience at right tackle, left tackle. Carson Vincent from, I think, Alabama A&M. He played both right and left. There's a few guys that have played right and left that are going to be on the board maybe on day 3. So I don't know. I think the Niners either go offensive line in the first round or maybe not till late in the draft.
We'll see. Joseph for real says $2 Mando, reminding everyone to like and sub. Yeah, everyone, please like and sub. Josh White says, I 100% believe Trent's done. John's comment at the combine didn't say Trent is motivated. He said he would have to be very motivated in order to return. I went back and read the comments a lot today. It's hard to figure. He said, no, he's playing. Then he says, the thing about Trent is that he really only wants to play if he's playing at a high level. So that's where he's at. I'm like, okay. Okay. Well, what does that mean? I don't know. I'd be prepared for him to retire.
It's an ambiguous comment. It sounds like, I'll forget all those comments and I'll just go back to the last year's comments when we had him there and he had a chance to reflect. And I remember we asked him late in the year, maybe the last time we talked to him, Trent, give us, take us behind the curtain. What goes into your mindset to come back to play this and that. And he said, he kind of made it seem like a year or two ago, he was considering walking away, but now he's in that mindset. I want to see how long I can play. And I think also he understands that he's a warrior for his family. And every year that man plays, he's accruing generational wealth. I mean, he's a $20 million a year type of a guy. So I just think that he's, I think he loves to play. He wants that ring. He likes being on this team. His body's not failing him completely. And he wants that money. So I think I'm not concerned. I think he's going to play definitely 1 more year and maybe even 2 more years.
Thomas Selman says Purdy is going to get paid and he deserves the big contract. I also love Booker. Tate Ratledge is another interesting prospect. Some injury concern.
I'll say this too. All 3 of the Georgia interior guys, I think it's Ratledge, Jared Wilson, Dylan Fairchild, all tested out incredibly highly. So that's a good sign for both them, and it's a good sign for the Niners. Worked out this guy Walter Brinson, who's one of their other defensive tackles. If you're a defensive lineman for Georgia, or an offensive lineman for that matter, you went up in practice against elite guys every day, and probably made those guys better. So that's something to look for.
If the Niners are drafting with 2026 in mind, because they acknowledge that maybe that they're probably not going to win the Super Bowl this year, but they could in 2026. Would Josh Connerly be an outrageous pick at 11?
I don't think it's value.
Why is Kelvin Banks ranked higher than him?
I mean, personally, I don't like Kelvin Banks. I think Kelvin Banks is
a lot of people don't.
Well, and some of the people that are a little bit more independent and, a little bit more crunching this thing, I've listed him as a guard. I believe if you go to Dane Brugler's draft guide, he's not listed as a tackle. He's listed as a guard.
Interesting.
And I just advocated for Booker. So now I'm sitting there, well, he's a guard. It's not like being a guard takes him off the radar. But
that's not what you're drafting him to be.
Right. And also, what do the Niners really need? What do they need like week 1? They need a starter at left guard that's better than Ben Bartch. Okay. Yep. Tyler Booker has played left guard his entire career at Alabama. He's been devastating in the best conference in America. If you get him, you could plug him in at the position that he's been playing at a really high level the last few years. To me, that's worth doing.
And again, we compared Booker a minute ago to Mike Iupati, who was the 17th pick in 2010. I mean, it's if you're a legit
that's where he's
blue
going
chip
to.
Guard, Quentin Nelson was a top 20 pick. I mean, guards get taken top 20 if they're that good. And just because he didn't run that fast or he wasn't super agile, like what he's getting paid to do is push a man against his will from point A to point B. He's really good at it.
Yeah. He's not real quick, but he's faster straight line over 40 yards than Don Pooney, who was, pretty quick last year.
And again, like you can run the outside zone to the right, and on the left side, you can do more gap scheme, pin and pull, inside zone. I mean, the idea of him and Trent Williams or him and Josh Connerly pushing one defensive tackle down the field, probably an advantage for the 49ers. And we've seen them run that play with Banks and Williams.
And let's be completely real about the 49ers and their needs. The Niners can't run the ball on the goal line to save their life.
Right.
The Niners can't run the ball in short yardage. When they need a yard, they cannot get it.
Ben Barch is going to fix that, Larry.
Yeah. And every one of the contending teams that they have to beat out to win the Super Bowl, Kansas City, Philadelphia, Detroit, you name it, across the board, they're all really stout and solid on the line of scrimmage on the offensive line, and they can run the ball inside the 5. So what you're telling me, the 49ers are somehow going to not be able to run the ball inside the 5, and all of their opponents are going to be able to run the ball inside the 5, and yet the Niners are going to be so much better in all these other phases. They're going to beat these teams. It's not plausible. It's not believable. The Niners' biggest need, or one of the biggest needs, I would say really close to the biggest need, is they have to be able to run the ball. And their interior
up the middle in short yardage, 1 yard. They're so concerned about getting blockers on the perimeter, tight ends, wide receivers who block, fullbacks. All that's great. You know what I mean? It takes 11 players. But what about the left guard when it's 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 4th and an inch? I mean, the Niners aren't good enough in those situations for a team that's run first. And I think a guy like Tyler Booker changes that clearly.
Yeah.
He is better than Banks. He'd be an upgrade over Banks.
I'm looking for culture changing players here. Because I mean, if you can change your culture, so like give you an example. Let's say you get to 11 and you got the Penn State tight end sitting there. Okay, he's a culture changing player, man. He's a tough son of a gun. Let's say you could trade up into the back of round 1 for a Tyler Booker. You add Tyler Warren and Tyler Booker to your line of scrimmage, you were going to be able to run the ball. It's two
Tylers, one offense. I like that.
It's a lot of Tyler, but
it's a lot of Tylers. Right now, they got a lot of Kyles. I think they should infuse some Tylers into the roster.
Yeah, introduce some Tylers. Here's the other one. Jakes. Here's another one that I heard this week, and I don't know if you heard it. I don't know if it's legitimate, but I've heard that it's not happening for Keenan Allen in Chicago, and that the Niners and the Chargers may battle it out for Keenan. And you know what? I like that. You know, Cal guy who, you know, North Carolina kid who went to Cal, who has been a great pro, and he's still coming off a very good year. You're not going to have Aiyuk, but you still want to contend. What do you think? I mean, rookie receivers do squat usually. What do you think of signing Keenan Allen draft weekend? I know it doesn't. He's not younger or healthier or cheaper.
I mean, it would be, again, a move for 2025. And the Niners haven't made many of those. I mean, I guess Demarcus Robinson was one. That's about it. If they do it, I would be impressed. Like make one move for 2025.
How about Asante Samuel?
Show us that you care. Give the season ticket holders a reason to renew. Come on, man.
Seriously.
One thing. It seems like if you're going to do a reset year, which is fine, just be upfront about it and slash ticket prices. Everyone will be into it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, hey, you know, that's the one thing. I mean, it's they've done a lot of they haven't won the Super Bowl, but they have done a lot of winning. I think they're
you can have a step back year. People understand if you explain it.
I think you could definitely have a step back year if you can introduce some really great young players. That to me is it. If you have a great draft, even if these guys don't have one or two get hurt and you wind up going, 9-win type season, doesn't matter. If you can draft some building block type pieces, I think that's the most important thing.
You got to remember, there's a couple times at the teams in the NFL. There's teams like the Steelers that will do whatever it takes to win 9 games. Seriously, like they will do whatever it takes, sign whatever, spend the money just to win 9 games. Niners aren't like that. They either win 13 or 5. And at the owners' meetings a couple weeks ago, Jed York even said it. He's like, I'm the kind of guy that if we're going to be bad, I'd rather be really bad because I want the opportunity to draft these special players. So if the Niners feel like best case, they're a 10-win team this year, I could see them being like, look, we're not tanking, but tanking.
Well, they just may look at, that's what's going to be interesting about this on offense. What do they do? I think on defense, we know they're going to draft defensive linemen, linebackers, corners. Okay. That's what they're going to do on defense. On offense, they may draft offensive linemen. They need offensive linemen, but I get the sense that they may draft skill position guys. You can make an argument they need a tight end, a receiver, a running back, and a quarterback. I mean, you can make an argument for it. So I don't know.
I mean, they're definitely going to need a wide receiver next year if Aiyuk and Jennings are both gone.
Definitely.
Kittle's only got 1 year left on his contract. McCaffrey's day to day at this point in his career. Like, yeah, again, if this is all about 2026 and beyond, who knows how they prioritize their needs?
Well, the other question is this. Do they need a starter more at running back or at wide receiver? Because at running back, you got CMC, but what is CMC going to be? And then you don't have JP Mason anymore. And Garendo had 3 injuries at the end of the year. So, and you use 4 backs, like 5 of the 7 years or some ridiculous number of years you've used 4 backs. So, I mean, do you need a back or do you need a receiver? If you look up and without any injuries, who's your third receiver? Cowing?
We have one.
Yeah.
Boy, they got some issues.
Yeah.
Well, look, it's 5:03 on the West Coast. We don't have time to figure out all the Niners issues. I think we just figured out 87% of them, which is pretty good. It's not bad. Larry, it's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, man. We'll do it again.
Let's do it again next time. Thank you very much for watching, everyone.
Peace.
Make